George Lucas famously said, "Shit, we blew our budget on fake-ass Peter Cushing, and now we have no money for a hat." So he put some money aside to make sure in the next Star Wars movie Han Solo would have a hat. But then Irvin Kershner said, "Hey George, how about you Kessel run these balls?" Lucas was devastated by Kershner's remarks, so he took the money that he had for a hat and threw it at Steven Spielberg and said, "You better make me a fucking movie," and that's how we got Raiders of the Lost Ark. But we're not here to talk about that, are we? Pay attention. Because George threw the hat budget at Spielberg, he didn't have any more money for a hat in Star Wars anymore, and wouldn't have it for years. Not until 2009, which if you do the simple math, is at least 4 years. Cad Bane, everybody's favorite bounty hunter. No, don't argue with me, you know I'm right. If you didn't know, Cad Bane is based off of Angel Eyes from Sergio Leone's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. There's also some inspiration from Colonel Douglas Mortimer, but I think it was mainly based off of Lee Van Cleef's portrayal of Angel Eyes.
But you know the pity is when I'm paid, I always follow my job through. No! Angel Eyes!
Get Corey Burton, put a Duros in a cowboy hat, bing bang boom, iconic Star Wars character. Cad Bane was made to be a reoccurring villain in Star Wars The Clone Wars, and he first debuted in the Season 1 finale that aired in 2009, titled Hostage Crisis, where Cad Bane rolled up with a posse to kidnap some senators to release Jabba the Hutt's gay uncle from prison.
Oh, it's so bright out here.
Oh my god.
I'm laughing because if you Google Jabba the Hutt's gay uncle, it knows what you're talking about. And yeah, he's a stereotype, but you know, it works out in the end. Which, all jokes aside, was a fantastic introduction to a fantastic villain.
Everybody quiet. I've got a call to make.
One of the great things about Cad Bane is there's no question that he is the villain in whatever story he's in. There's no underlying theme about being used for others' goals and a life not chosen for you, or how he's bad but he's not that bad because he has a moral code. No, he finishes a job and then his boss says, "Hey, can you go kidnap some babies?" And he's just like,
I want a world-class starfighter with elite weapons, cloaking device, the works. Oh, and triple my usual rates.
I think he might be the bad guy. He's all business, shoots first, asks questions later. I love that he's always talking like he's in a Western.
How about you fellas step aside? Well, hello there, little lady.
But don't try anything until the sun has set.
Holster 'em. You're lucky we're in a hurry, little lady. We'll have to dance another time.
He's just too much fun.
So long, Jedi.
Cad Bane is one of my favorites, so when he made a surprise appearance in The Bad Batch, I was more than happy to see him again. Because, believe it or not, we had not seen him since Season 4, Episode 18, titled Crisis on Naboo, that aired in 2012. So we didn't get to see him until 9 years later. Like, what the fuck?
I'll give you a reward when I plug you full of laser bolts.
And it was awesome. He's a cowboy gunslinger in outer space. What better way to bring him back than to have him have a standoff with the main character of the series and fucking shoot him? Like, what more could you ask for? So after his triumphant return, I was like, now I have to make a figure. And I did. All the smart boys and girls will know that this is my third custom Cad Bane. The first Cad Bane custom I made was in 2017, based off of the concept art for his Season 7 outfit, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. The second figure I made was in 2019, based off of his Season 1 through 3 outfit, which in my opinion is still the best look for the character, but that's neither here nor there. If you couldn't tell, if you're that stupid, this figure is based off of his appearance from The Dad Batch, where he showed up to kidnap a child. Again. Which, if I had a nickel for every time Cad kidnapped a kid, I would have at least 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. First off, let's take a look at his blasters. Now, I've said before one of my favorite things about Cad Bane is the sound for his blaster shots. They remind me a lot of the gunshot sounds from the Indiana Jones movies. Just these meaty, hefty sounds that do a great job at selling you the impact and strength behind those weapons. Duke, that's the wrong footage. Do I pay you to make mistakes? No, I don't think so. There you go, that's better. Sorry about that. Anyway. This time around I didn't have to do much to make Cad Bane's LL30s, because instead of having to make them out of some Brick Arms pistols, Brick Arms actually made his pistols. All I did was take some ProCreate, fill in the indentations on the side, add these little scope clamps, drilled out the barrel and the lenses for the scope. They were painted silver and black. I used some brown for the handles. I painted the scopes in a glossy black with some red highlights. I also hit it with some lighter browns to give it a little bit of a rusty look. Now this outfit is pretty much based off of the unused one that Bane was supposed to have for Season 7 of the Clone Wars with some changes. The boots are one of the biggest new additions to this design for the character because on the original they weren't there at all. They consist of a variety of different colors, the top half being a mossy green with a lighter brown wrap, both featuring a silver trim, held together with some gray boot straps. The bottom half being gray with tan and gunmetal tips for the boots with a silver outer sole wrapping around. I used some black to outline some areas, and I also used some lighter brown to add some rusty spots. They actually changed his boot rockets this time around. As you can see, these are a completely different design. These were made out of some styrene rods with some additional sculpting. The knee pads are sculpted and painted black and silver with some rusty spots. Both holsters were sculpted and painted gray. The button on the top I painted in gunmetal. The chaps were painted in a reddish brown and outlined in gunmetal. The belts were made out of electrical tape. The belt buckles are sculpted out of ProCreate alongside all the ammo cylinders. Painted those in a lighter brown with some silver ends. The buckles are painted in several metallic colors. I used some black to outline some things, and there's a little bit of tan on the bottom belt. The torso was painted in a lighter brown. Over top of that I did some dry brushing with a reddish brown. The vest is sculpted and painted silver on the front and back. I used some black to fill in the vest and some dark gray for the top of these side armored bits. There's also a strip of electrical tape continuing the collar of the shirt. Now the gauntlets, this is the third time I've made these, so it's kind of second nature at this point. They were sculpted and the base of them was painted gunmetal. I used some tan for some of the switches. The buttons on the front are painted gray and red. The hose connections are painted silver. The hoses themselves are in a dark gray. I also have a strip of electrical tape on the wrist extending the gauntlet, and I painted a bit of his blue skin peeking out from the gloves. The armored patch on his left arm was sculpted and I painted the symbol. Don't know what it is. Somebody probably knows. Tim? I painted 2 brown straps on both arms. Then the shoulder pads were also sculpted out of ProCreate, and as you can see, they are asymmetrical, the right one being bigger than the left. The right is painted silver with a black border. The left one is painted silver and gunmetal with a black line between them. Alright, so his air hoses. I did something completely different this time around. Instead of rolling up ProCreate into a very thin tube and taking a fabric puncher to punch out a bunch of circles and then line them through the tube, my very good friend Zach, who you may know does Goatcast with me, go watch Goatcast by the way, he sent me a link to a Green Stuff World Rollmaker set, which is basically used to make hoses and tentacles and things like that with sculpting putty like Green Stuff or ProCreate, and it was just perfect for what I needed. So now the entirety of the hose with the rings is one piece, which is great. So everybody thanks Zach for making this possible. What a guy, Zach. Even though he didn't make the thing, he just sent me a link, but you get the idea. It's attached to both sides of his face and runs around to the back where we have the thing that does the thing. Can of air? Maybe it's got goat's milk in it. I don't fucking know. Painted silver and black, lighter brown for rusty spots. His mask was painted in the same mossy green as the boots. Now the face is very similar to what I've done before, but this has to be my favorite one I've made. I've added a lot more scars because in the scene in the Bad Batch we get a lot of nice close-ups on his face and he's just covered in them. I put some more wrinkles under his eyes to make him look older, added some lines to define the cheeks on the side of his face, made it so he was gritting his teeth to give him that stern and grumpy look, painted the eyes red, went over them with some translucent red paint just to make them look more vibrant, and I'm just really happy with how the face turned out on this guy. I was going to try to give him a toothpick, but I already painted the head, so maybe I'll do that next time. I don't know. I didn't want to drill a hole into it.
Now all I need's a new hat.
The best part about Cad Bane, his hat. Gives him a very distinct silhouette. Probably because no one else wears one, but you get my point, looks fucking cool as shit.
What are you looking at? It's a nice hat.
And well, he actually has his original hat. It's just a smaller brim. If you look at the concept art, he had a different hat for the Bad Batch, but I'm glad they kept the original one. It just looks better in my opinion. Because it has a smaller brim, I actually had to do some changes to the official Lego one. Mainly by making the brim smaller. Aren't we all smart?
And you smart. Kid's got it all figured out.
I actually extended the metal covering on the hat. Taking a look at the original, I just noticed it didn't look right, so I changed that with some minimal sculpting. One thing I really wanted to do was make it so I could pose the hat. To achieve that, I cut out the plastic that would hold the stud, filled it in with ProCreate, and put a magnet up there. Inside the head of the minifigure is a small metal ball allowing me to position the hat wherever I want, which I think turned out pretty cool. Now, as you can tell, I did round off the head to accommodate the metal ball and also to be able to add the metal plate that is now attached to Cad Bane's skull. Because he got shot in the head by Boba Fett in an unfinished episode of the Clone Wars that doesn't even exist. But I guess they're implying that still happened, hence the metal plate on his head, which is stupid because I really like the idea of Boba Fett killing Bane and taking the mantle of best bounty hunter in the galaxy. I would have loved to see that story, but I guess that story still happened, and I guess I just didn't get to see it. And apparently Boba Fett sucks so much ass he can't even kill somebody with a fucking headshot, which doesn't make any sense. Maybe take off that bucket, you fucking loser. Stop letting characters survive mortal wounds. It takes away all the tension in a story. And stop bringing them back from the dead. You know how I said I was really excited to see Bane in the Bad Batch? You want to know something I wasn't excited about? Cad Bane in the set Move It Does That Boba Fett show. Last thing I wanted was a character I really liked shoved in at the end of a story that had nothing to do with him, and to imply history between two characters that doesn't even exist. The only time we've seen these two interact is right here. That's it. They've never talked to one another unless you count seeing unfinished work that you have to go out of your way to watch and use a little bit of your own imagination to fill in the gaps just so you can make sense of some supposed rivalry between the two, just so Boo Boo can dodge a point-blank range shot to the head and stab our boy with a fucking stick. Don't get me wrong, he better stay dead. No more surviving stabbings through the chest. This is getting ridiculous. Next thing you know, Sheev Jr. is gonna show up in the next episode of The Mandalorian, season 5.8, miraculously surviving being fucking dead. Sorry, I really don't like that show. Me and Zach made an hour-long goat cast talking about it. Maybe give that a watch when you're done watching this. And hey, I hope to see Cad Bane again, in a better story. Here's hoping he'll be back for season 2 of Bad Batch, not that shit. That's about it for our blue cowboy here. I always have a lot of fun making bounty hunter characters. They're just always so unique and different from one another. They're definitely one of my favorite parts of Star Wars. Cad Bane is my favorite bounty hunter, so he's always fun to make, and this will probably not be the last time I make him. Speaking of making things, I didn't make Toto.
Toto? Where's the kid?
She's quite obviously right there. Oh.
I want to make Toto 360. Who doesn't want a butler droid that looks like a pregnant shoebox?
I am a techno service droid.
So expect to see him at some point. That's about it for this video, so thank you for watching. I always appreciate it. Hope you all have a good day, and I will catch you guys another time. Fuck Boba Fett. Why do people like Boba Fett? Like, he sucks. Like, at least Cad Bane does something.